Hello everyone, I am just logging in so that I can actually see my live as well. And it sounds like I do need to turn down my... Alright. So this is a new set of software that I'm using right now, which is Streamlabs. Yeah, I definitely need to turn this down. There, that should work. Anyway, I'm trying out new software. Ooh, why is it coming through on that end? Well, at least I know that you can hear me, so that's good. I thought I turned the echo cancellation on, but that's okay. All right. Anyway, so I'm trying out Streamlabs. I have my laptop obviously facing me, and then, or kind of side view because I'll be working this direction. And then on the front here is my phone camera to actually see. I'll move it up to actually see my serger once I start using my serger. We'll do that right now. Please ignore the pile of scraps behind me. That's where they go for the graveyard once I'm actually done. Yeah, that's better now. You can actually see my cutting table and everything like that. All right, so what we're going to do today is I went through and I cut a bunch of cake cozies earlier, and now we're going to go through and cut a bunch of grime guards for 8 by 11 by 11, I believe is the measurement. I'm just actually going to check that. If you're here earlier too, I was doing a bunch of stuff like trying to figure out how to actually like just figuring stuff out because this is a massive learning curve for me. Let's see, I just want to make sure that I want to make them for the 8 by 8, so like, yeah, 8 by 11 frame, so two sides of it would be 8 inches and then one side of it would be 11 inches, and that's perfect. I will not be attempting to do the 11 by 11 right now, simply because I am trying to get stuff done for Knit City, but I can 100% do the 8 by 11, and also I will be attempting to do the 8-inch hoop. I have a feeling that that is the like main sizes that most people use, but you know, if you use a different size, let me know in the comments after this video or during the live as well. But let's jump right into it. So grime guards do have to be cut from new fabric. That's what we're going to work on. I am just going to shrink everything down here so that I can actually see both my... Oh, it looks like live chat actually connected. Sweet. So live chat connected in Streamlabs this time. I have a viewer count there. I also have a viewer count that you can see, though that's not that big a deal. And then... Awesome. So last time I didn't actually connect to the chat, so it's actually improved since I used it earlier today. So I'm going to lift my serger off. I'm just going to set it to the side here. Down you go, my pretty. And then she is a heavy, work hard beast, and I love her. All right, now the cable's all tangled up with my microphone, but we'll just kind of deal with that here. Excuse me. All right. All right, we're gonna have a quick drink of Coke here, just so I have some caffeination. And let's get to it. It's not that late here. So a little bit of caffeine right now is not gonna hurt me. So I've got some gorgeous fabrics here to work with today. So I've got this amazing fans with cranes in it. I can definitely tell I'm going to need to get a different light setup in here for sure, but we can deal with that later. As I was talking in my earlier stream, I was totally like in it to see if it actually even worked, and it worked extremely well. I was so happy. Because finding like software that's kind of plug and play and just super easy to get yourself going on is really hard, and the Streamlabs one made it really good. All right, I'm gonna go in and just gonna monitor both and just see what the delay is as well, because I turned down the latency on the actual stream, so I'm hoping that that helps. Okay, there we go. I think I have everything set up that I need to see. Yeah, we're good. All right. So we're just going to cut these individually because I don't have my nice big ruler. I went to look for it earlier. I actually misplaced it. I think it's on my cutting table somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure where. I did actually tidy up a little bit today because I was just like, oh my goodness, everything is going to be a little bit too much. But this will work as well, more or less. Except apparently I need to have it upside down to make sure that I'm actually like the right direction. So these will need a little bit of a trim down. I don't need the full width. I think it's like something like 2 inches off the full width, but we can deal with that afterwards. So I'm gonna make a grind guard pile right here, and then we'll continue on. So now the debate should be whether I do actually, and then yeah, I'm gonna do 2. So I'm gonna do the 8-inch and the 8x11 Q-snap frames. I'm gonna do them at the same time, and then the cut from the 8-inch hoop will actually be what I make the. There we go. I just need to cut from a different direction. Now you can still see that, correct? Yes, you can. Anyway, I'm going to cut it and make it into a scrunchie as well. So there'll be a scrunchie and an 8-inch grime guard made from this cut too. There we go. So I used to make grime guards quite frequently. I kind of stepped back from them because making them with in the style I was making them, which was French fold or French seams, which is a really nice way to seam. It encloses all your raw edges so that you don't have any raw edges, which is a big deal especially when you're not lining something. But what ended up happening is that, like, as you get into the higher amounts, obviously the fabric width is not enough. So I stepped back from making them for a little while and watched for a serger. A serger at a reasonable price took a really long time to track down. But I finally did in 2020, summer of 2020 actually. Drove down and got it, and then it took me a year to actually get it into service. Because, of course, with 2 babies, the second one arriving in 2021, it's just a lot of work. But I got it working, and then last year I did a bunch, and then the machine didn't break, but it started to, like, the foot started to wobble like this. And so I set it aside because I was basically more or less finished what I was going to make with it for Knit City last year. And I set it aside because I did not have time to, like, take it apart and fix it. And so what I did is this year I went through and actually fixed it a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago now. Given how time is absolutely, like, flying, probably about a month ago. And so I fixed it, and now she is running just like the little beast she is, and I love it so much. It's an FR755. It's from Family Lock. I think Family Lock is now Baby Lock, but this is an old machine. This is not a new young machine. She is fully metal. Full, like, I could take her apart and do small services on her, which is good because I didn't want to pay for the servicing fee. She's heavy. She sticks to the table well. Like, I got a really good deal on a very good machine. I would put her as a semi-industrial machine. And definitely something that, adding to the repertoire, I will not look back. So if she ever does break down, which fingers crossed she never does, I will be having to replace her. She does not have a name, though. So if you're watching this stream or you're watching this later, let me know what you think she should be named. She's got an orange faceplate, and then she's kind of cream around the edges, like off-white. Ivory would probably be the best, or the closest, best description. That is a really weird fold. I don't know why I did it that way. Let's do that. These pieces, I thought I had gotten so much fabric in November, and it's like I've done most of the cuts, and it's like, ooh, okay, we are through the majority of it. Okay, this retro jam labels though, and like fruit labels, is going to be so good. So good. I don't know why I laid it that way. It's supposed to be this way. I know I'm supposed to be working on Kato and large box bags for Paula and for restocking for Knit City, but I really wanted to make sure that I did have grime guards as well. So I'm also toying with the idea of actually washing some of the fabric from May. I have not gotten to that yet because this summer has been insanely busy. But I'm thinking I should actually get to it and see what I can make from it. So now the scrunchies are not something that I'm really going to branch into specifically, but again, they're another thing. It's like, what do I do with the other side of the cut? Because the second cut off of the one that's going to be for 8-inch hoops is not large enough to make anything really. I guess I could make a notions pouch out of it or something like that. And that could be some of it too. It might be better because the scrunchie might be too thick. Because a lot of the times I'm taking other scraps to make the scrunchie. So I don't know. Maybe I said I'd make scrunchies out of the other cut. I think I might actually end up making not scrunchies. Maybe a different style of like notions pouch or something like that. Do you already have a plan for a different notions pouch? Basically a little bit larger and maybe, I don't know how I'm going to change it up to make it like mine. But I'll figure it out. Yeah, so how I was cutting them before, because I didn't have a serger, was I would cut like one long strip down the selvage edge of the fabric basically. And honestly, that ended up leaving me with a lot of really weird cuts. And that's the other reason why I stopped making them, because French seaming it in the middle to go around stuff just didn't work. All right, I don't actually have as many fabrics out here as I thought I did, which is not the worst thing. I do want to get to the actual serging, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 13 more. Okay. So that's going to give us about 16 to 17 actual grind guards for Knit City. That's not bad. So that's something I want to go whole hog in on, but I have noticed that there are quite a few more cross stitchers and embroiderers, so I want to offer them products as well. And that's the nice thing with sewing, is it's like it can move with the seasons of stuff, because crafting goes through cycles as well. And really the grime guards are just a larger cake cozy. That's all we're making right now, is a larger cake cozy, which is actually quite fantastic. I can tell I'm going to need more of that Coke Zero here in a moment. Holy, I'm running out of energy. Now this does leave me with some weird cuts for like, what do I do with this? I don't know what I'll do with this. I'll figure it out. It looks like it's a good small box bag. Maybe we'll make something a little bit larger with it. I'll figure it out at some point. Alright, so we need to unfold it here. This fabric hasn't been cut into yet, but it's super adorable. It's cats with like, I'm going to call them strawberries. I think they're strawberries. I don't know what they are exactly. We're going to fold it over and square up the edge, and then we'll go ahead and cut the grime guards. Now, the other little machine that I need to take apart eventually is I actually do have an electric rotary cutter, and it's so useful. It is very heavy though. I'm kind of a half of a mind to be like, maybe I should fix it and sell it on. Or sell it on and someone else can fix it. Because the other rotary cutters that I'm seeing look like they would be far lighter. You don't want it to be super light though, so that's why I'm like, do I have the best of what I'm going to get for the cost I spent? Or should I look into getting something new? I do a lot of my tool shopping on Facebook Marketplace. That's actually where my steam press and actually the serger didn't come off Facebook Marketplace. The serger came off of that other place, Kijiji. The like not quite OG, but has been around longer than Facebook Marketplace, that's for sure. Anyway, I got the serger off of Kijiji. And then I ended up getting the steam press that I purchased recently off of Facebook Marketplace, because here's the thing, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on it and then never use it. It's basically, it's a good way to test it out and see if I will use it or not. And then if and when it's finished or lived its useful life to me, or it dies, basically, dead and gone, I'll purchase a new one then. But I figure it's a good way to not, if I didn't use it, then I could just turn around and sell it back on, basically. But thankfully, for most everything I've bought off of there, it's worked out really well. And so the story, why I went on to that story, is that this rotary cutter that I bought is actually from Facebook Marketplace as well. Because I had been looking for an electric rotary cutter, and at the time there weren't a lot of options, and the options that there were restrictively expensive. But since I bought it, which was probably, it had to have been 4 or 5 years ago at this point, probably 5 at least, the prices have been reduced quite a bit, and there's quite a few more options available on the market too, which is really nice. So the one thing I did learn from the stream that I did earlier as well is that I need to have my phone plugged in or else it dies. So we've got it plugged in, we've got my laptop plugged in, because I did have it plugged in earlier, but I didn't realize that it wasn't plugged in fully on the actual laptop. So it almost died as well, right in the middle of stream, which would have been hilarious in some ways and horrendous in other ways. But yes, it's plugged in right now. It's just wait, I better double check that, because I was so sure it was plugged in earlier and it wasn't. But we're good. Some of these are super cute. I'm excited to make this one into grime guards. All right, that's not what I need to do. I need to actually line these up a little bit better. There we go. Then fold it in half this way. There we go. And then we've got the grime guards. So yeah, so we're gonna do this full body cuts first, and then we'll go through and we'll do the fine tuning cuts afterwards. Been ridiculously hot here in Alberta the past few days, and it finally just cooled down today, and then it rained, which is very good. Although I would really like to send rain to BC and the Northwest Territories and Maui as well. It's horrendous how many fires have been around everywhere this year. Obviously Northern Alberta also was quite a bit under fire as well earlier this year. Not northern, I guess Central Alberta might be the better description. So Drayton Valley area. Thankfully, Caroline and I were out of the country for that one. But it was, Dallas was sending me photos when we were in Japan, and it was insane, the amount of smoke. And you could tell it was in the air today, even because the rain smelled like a campfire that had actually just been doused, which is not exactly pleasant smell, especially when it's everywhere. All right, macaron critters is coming up next. That one was nice and easy to cut because it was already folded. I'm gonna be down to all these weird little odds and ends, and I'm not gonna know what to do with it. Wait, is this okay? This is not the first stuff I've made from this fabric. That's good. It is spectacular though. I don't know why I'm showing the computer when I should be showing the phone, but I love the colors on it. All right, there's actually quite a bit here. What did I make out of this? I don't know. Now with the serger, we are going through and cutting all of this right now because everyone that uses a serger always seems to hesitate about threading it. However, I have no problem threading it. I don't like changing thread if I don't have to. But a lot of these do need black serging. I'm not going to put white serger thread on this because it's quite a dark fabric, obviously. But you know, we'll change out the thread eventually, and then I'll have to do the same on the sewing machine. We'll sew the white stuff, and then we'll sew the dark stuff. Which, yeah, because I've got white thread in the machine right now. So my goal tonight, because the serger is quite quick, is I'll get through cutting all of this and then we'll go through and serge everything. And then if there's enough time, I will go through and actually do some of the finishing work on it as well. So basically I'll hem it and then I'll decide. I do have a friend that's volunteered to help, so I might actually have her out to help me put the elastics through next weekend. I'll see where I get to tonight and then decide from there, because tomorrow I want to cut the interiors and pockets for the kato for both Paula and myself. Actually, no. Right, I decided what I was going to do is I was going to cut and make all of her, or make all the large box bags, which means I need to cut all the interiors for the ones I want to make myself, for the store and for Knit City sales. And then and then the kato will be afterwards. The kato always take a lot more time because of the pockets. I'm always like, oh, they'll be so fast because they're just a drawstring bag. No, that's not how it works. How it works is it's a much longer process. I don't want to make, I pulled this to make grime guards with, but I'm not going to. I don't know what I want to make with it yet, but it suddenly went, nope, you don't want to make grime guards out of me. So we'll set it aside. I am going to make Shiba Dongo though. Should I make Shiba Dongo? Nah, let's skip those two. Okay, so we got 4 more. I was going to make some of the dog fabrics, but I'm going to keep them for box bags and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to set them aside to put away as well. So they're just going to live there because whatever. So we've got the Sassy Cat with the moons and stars, and then we've got Itty Bitty Micro Dogs on pink. Super adorable. And really good for this size of stuff. This is Fish Heaven. And it's cats all over these like various cans of cat food. And then we've got the navy version of Sassy Cat with strawberries. So I already cut the aqua sagey green color of this, so now we're going to do the navy version of it. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Pretty sure I already did cake cozies in this. I did serge the cake cozies off camera. I wanted to make sure that the serger was running okay, and I had the time to do it before we went and picked kiddos up. Obviously didn't have time to come on and stream it, so I was just like, let's just do all the white cake cozies. And I'm pretty sure this Micro Dogs was one of those cake cozies. So actually, and the other thing we should finish, and there's, because they're like this close, or maybe even like the width of fabric close. So I need to sit down and just finish off the knot bags. So maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll do knot bags, and then we'll also cut the fabrics for the large box bags and the small box bags we want to restock. And we'll work from there. Okay. Now, how much fabric is actually left? 16 inches. Don't know what I will use that for, but we'll figure it out, like I said. All right, I don't think I've made anything from this fabric. I just realized I could do one cut from this one because it's already folded in half, and that would actually be both cake cozies, and then I'd have straight lines on both sides. So it wouldn't matter which side I actually was cutting from. So in this case, I have it laid the wrong way, but I can cut it from here. There we go. Sweet. That is actually the easiest way to do that. I don't know why I didn't do it with the other fabrics, but you know. Learning experiences, just like learning how to do the live stream. Alright, so this is probably the same, if not at least similar. I probably can line it up. Yep. Just fold it. I am going to square it up a little bit because the bottom edge here is kind of pretty ratty and not very straight for either layer. So we'll just square both the layers up. Make sure that it is as straight as possible folded here. like this. And then we'll cut that off. Just scoot this over a bit because I'm too far off the actual cutting mat. Okay. So square up here. And then we need to come in there. There we go. Now these scraps that I'm cutting off right now, like this, are actually going to go into a scraps for sale pile. And I redistribute to other crafters that wish to have them, usually for sale. Okay. So there's the 2 grime guards, just like that. Nice, that is so much easier. Fold it again. That's a better fold. Like that, and then we'll just fold this one in half because that'll store nicely on the shelves. And the last one, in part because I don't feel like cutting any more grime guards. Not terrible. Oh well. It's my business. I'll do what I want. I should actually cut some more bags from this fabric though, because it is adorable. Oh well. We'll get to it eventually. Fabric does eventually go bad, but it won't go bad in my lifetime. At least not this stuff. I'll use it before it goes bad. There we go. There's the answer. I'll use it before it goes bad. But it's not like it's going to walk off the shelf now that it's in my shelf. You know, that sort of stuff. All right, so we're going to square up this as well because look at that wibble wobble. So this is a consequence of washing the fabric before I use it. And it's why I wash the fabric before I use it. Is because like you end up with shrinkage like that, and so it pulls it different directions and all of that. Just better to do it. All right, the other way I can always measure this is actually measure it from and to, and there we go. If I square it up with the actual mat, that also helps keep the fabric square. There we go. There is all the grime guards that I'm going to make. Finished cutting. That's part of why I wanted to do the grime guards, is like they're a fairly quick addition to the shop, which is nice. That's not going to work. Okay, so with this one, we're going to fold it here again. And then we're going to fold it here because of the cut. Fold the cut in, and there's a nice little tidy package. All right, more Coke Zero. There we go. Okay, so all of these need to be cut down ever so slightly. Sorry if I just tapped my mic, that would be annoying. And I just need to double check the measurements that it says that I need. Okay, I need to probably write that down so I just don't have to keep looking at it. Here is a card that's been cut, and I'm going to write it off screen. Obviously, you can figure this out if you would like to make them, but I'm going to try not to give away all my secret sauce on camera. There we go. Although, really, if you're watching this, you're probably pretty smart and can figure it out anyway. Which means I should actually flip my cutting mat over, I'm sure, but you know, we'll get there eventually. All right, so let's see how wide this fabric is. There's still a little bit here that I need to obviously trim off. But we're done cutting the fabric from the main piece of fabric, and now we're just moving into the fine-tuned cuts to make sure that everything is ready to actually serge. I think these measurements might be a little bit large because the seam allowance that they've provided in the like guide that I'm following is a little bit less, I guess, but whatever. All right, so this is going to be exactly how wide I thought it was. So we're going to end up doing, oh, I'm actually going to turn my cutting mat so I can read it properly because it's upside down to me right now. So let's turn it. Okay, there we go. Nope, this one, wait. No, okay, it is like a little bit too large. So we're going to trim off the selvage on this side. Although I guess realistically I could have done that on the serger. Wouldn't have mattered too much. And then I'm going to trim down the other side. Okay, so what do I want to do? Line it up like that. Do. And then we'll just kind of, I guess, scoot it out. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Working tired. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to use the rotary cutter for this cut. So we're going to cut that bit off. That bit's going to go into no, that's going to go into the scrap graveyard. So I'm collecting some scraps because there's a really cute little, sorry, that's dark top stitching, so it goes in a different pile. Anyway, this cute little cat pouch that I was prototyping last year, and it will be adorable if it's patchwork. So I'm setting aside the little bit larger scraps to actually use for that later this year. Much later this year. Like these cat pouches won't be ready until after Knit City at this point. So, which is fine. I still need new products after Knit City. I think I do have some fall markets coming up. There's a few that aren't opening applications until like September. These would be closer to Christmas markets. But I will be applying. I'm super excited to try some of them out. They've been on like the list for a while, so you know, gotta try. Okay, we're gonna trim the selvage off these. I don't normally trim the selvage off. It usually just get like sewn in. But in this case, because it's a little bit more visible, I am going to trim it off. I can go into the scrap graveyard. And then it's that. So we're going to do I'm just going to use this. And we're going to cut off the amount that I need to make the 8-inch grime guard. I have a feel, actually, yeah, I don't need as much seam allowance as they call for, but that's okay. Maybe I should make, actually, yeah. Before I do that cut, we're going to cut one of the light ones. I know the other one, actually, we should probably experiment with both and make sure that they're both going to work. Okay, so the Sassy Cat and Moons is going to be the experimental one. We'll serge it, and then I'll go grab my Q-snap frame, and we'll make sure that it's going to fit. Okay, so how wide are you? You're probably the same width as the other one because you're both by Cosmo. Right? Oh no, this is by Coca, so it might be a little bit different. Not by much, especially once we trim off the selvage. There we go. And then I'm just going to trim this off here and into the scrap graveyard. So there's one, and then yeah, we'll pull the serger up and test out what exactly is happening and see if I need to adjust the seam allowances or what. So the seam allowance is this direction, the width, instead of the actual height. The height will be good because you'll be able to stuff a lot of fabric into it, but I am worried that the seam allowance being too, or the width circumference being too much is going to mean that it won't fit the hoop or the frame, and we don't need that. Okay, graveyard. So we need to do 1/2 inch. Yeah, okay. Trim up here. Sweet. Okay, so let's serge these. Pull it up and we'll see where we're at once I get them serged, and I can clip them together to kind of simulate the actual okay, I'm gonna unplug my phone, plug in the serger. Actually, I'll unplug the laptop because the laptop is nearly full and I can always move it. I've also got a splitter plug there I could use actually. Alright, come here my beastie. Alright, so this is the serger. Like I said, it's the FR755 by Family Lock. I just need to set up the pedals so that I can use it properly. And we can actually, I'll turn the laptop up down a little bit and then you can actually view me putting it through the machine. This would probably be better in the POV harness. So once I actually do start serging more, I'll set that up instead because would be a lot of fun. But otherwise, I hope you guys can actually hear me as part of this. I know that the mic isn't too... Oh. Okay, well, my thread popped out of the needle. So let's get this out of here. This is why I don't mind having a little bit extra seam allowance, because it's like, if I need to trim that off, I can. Okay, so why did you pop out? You were perfectly fine for the other stuff. And of course it's the top thread, which is the hardest to actually thread. Okay, well, here we go. Pick up some of the pieces. Turn the knife out of the way so I don't cut myself on it. And then let's get this threaded again. Okay, lift the foot, pull the thread, and we're gonna, it's not broken, is it? No, it's not broken, so the end is nice and like thin, it's not frayed, so it's easy to put through the actual eye of the needle. Now you can use, obviously, tweezers. I find that it's just as easy to actually stuff it through this eye and then just kind of wiggle it through the back here. Maybe it might be easier to grab the tweezers this time. Oh no, I got it. Sweet, I was actually able to pinch it. Yeah, I'll definitely do the POV harness when I'm actually serging these, because I'm sure it is absolutely riveting having this overhead view and side view, because you know that's what you're here for. Okay, so we're going to run back over that and we're going to actually serge over, cut that off. Oh, so which means I need to put the blade down. And let's go. Okay, and you need to go down this way so that you don't get involved in the hem. There we go. Okay, well, I don't understand. It's the same as like my industrial machine. It's like, why do you do what you do? It's the same as any machine. I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but honestly, I don't need to know in some ways. It's like, it'd be kind of cool, but it's not information that I want to retain in my head, so it's just kind of like, okay, whatever. All right. So now I'm going to do both long sides and then we'll do short sides. Yeah, because this was cut down to the length it needed to be. And then this is the really long one. So I used to actually hem these with a hemming foot on my sewing machine. And I gotta say, this serger is way, way, way easier than hemming it, that's for sure. The hemming worked really, really well because it still like closed the, it still enclosed the raw edge, and that's what I have to get around with this product, is that I don't want raw edges on the grime guard because that's going to cause wear and tear and it's not going to last very well. And if I was making a cheaply made product, that's exactly what I would want, but I'm not. We are going for a high quality product. At least as high of quality as my current skills will allow. Apparently, the little loopers on the bottom is refusing to stay tightened. All right, so we're gonna tighten it back up. Wonder if it would be better to actually have it down like that. And if you are absolutely fascinated by this, please let me know via chat. I am happy to answer any questions in there, so I'm working on this as well, obviously. Okay, we're gonna leave that down. And for some reason, the needle has become unthreaded again. I wonder if I've got my needle actually installed wrong. That's usually what it is on my sewing machine, is the needle's like in backwards. Because the thing about the industrial needles is that, like, on domestic machines, they've got a flat side, which is super useful. It makes it way easier to actually insert them. You can, or at least insert them the correct direction. But with the industrial machines, there's like a scarf, and then there's a long groove, and so I find it hard sometimes to actually put them in the correct position. Okay, I'm going to scroll down, just make sure that I can actually see the chat on my actual YouTube. Okay, bump it down a little bit. Get in there. Come on. I like how I was like, I don't need tweezers. I might need tweezers. Oh, there we go. It's through the eye of the needle. Go, go, go. Go in, please. There we go. Okay, I've grabbed it. And now we just pull back. There we go. All right, so we're going to pop it back under the serger here. Kind of where we stopped, and we'll lock in that end that we had here. There we go. And go. There we go. Sweet. All right. So now we're going to take the other long end of the first one and serge down it. And yes, same as when I'm working on my large machine or on my industrial, I will actually let's just turn it and go from here. So basically I'm just going to chain piece it on the serger as well, because that makes my life easier. Okay. So we're actually serging now the short end of the long grime guard. And I'm going to pull past, and then I'm going to run it through. And we're going to do the other long side, and then we'll do the short side. I change up how I do it every single time. Okay, Cozy, it's easier to do both long sides, and then you do the short sides. Here, I don't know, I haven't made any grime guards on the serger. These are actually the first grime guards I've serged on the serger. So it all changes depending on like what I'm doing and how I'm feeling. They're all still same quality product. Just sometimes the short ends get done at the same time, and sometimes the long ends get done at the same time. In this case, we're basically going to encapsulate everything on the same grime guard at the same time, so it's just done. The serging process. All right, there we go. And then that one, I'm gonna turn the shorter one, the smaller grime guard. We'll do the short edge here. Run it out. It's also easier to do it when there's more pieces than just the two pieces, so. And we'll do the long edge again on the other side. I don't know if you can see that, but it does use quite a bit of thread. That's one of the things that serging does do. because it uses quite a bit more thread than actual sewing. And then we'll shove the short end through here. And I'm going to pull this so it gets snipped by the knife. And done. So there's the serging done. So I'm going to go grab the frame and the hoop, and we're going to clip this together. I'm going to trim the threads as well. I'm already working on it, so I may as well trim them. I actually know exactly where my stuff is right now, so that's good. And that is caught. Now, if the serging is not perfect, it's okay, because I am going to actually hem these still. They still have to be folded under and hemmed. But the serging, basically what I've done it for is to stop the fraying of the fabric during use. And so far so good from what I understand. I haven't had any complaints about this finishing technique. So if you have purchased a Cape Cozy, let me know how it's holding up. I would love to know. It's not a product of mine. Like, I love them, but it's not something that I use regularly. Although realistically, I have barely knit in the last year, so that's kind of detrimental to it as well. Okay, so that is fixed up. I will be right back with the embroidery frame and the hoop, and I'll just set the serger down because we don't need it until we're actually finishing more. We're just prototyping this to make sure that's going to work with these seam allowances. So one moment, I'm going to actually throw it on to be right back, and I will literally be right back. Be right back. Alright, so I need to figure out how to mute my mic, apparently. Because I could hear that when I was setting it down. Anyway, I've got my frames. And thank you for the subscription, Wanley. I really appreciate it. I don't think you're hanging out anymore, but you know, I still really appreciate it. So, these are the frames. If you're not a embroiderer or cross stitcher, these are the frames I'm talking about. This is actually the 17-inch frame. I am not doing any grime guards for the actual 17-inch frame at this point because that's an insane size. I think this is something like 17 by 8. So obviously that would require a lot of fabric, and again, I need to do some more math obviously before I commit to making anything like that. But that is the 17 by 8 frame. It is quite large. Hi everyone, I'm currently working on basically figuring out what my seam allowances for these grime guards need to be, because I realized as I was cutting them and had figured the guide I was using gave quite large, I guess I can tilt the laptop screen back up because I'm not working on the serger right now. Anyway, I need to figure out the actual seam allowance that we need, because the guide that I was using would not be the correct actual seam allowance for this style that I'm making, because I'm using serger instead of like seam allowances. Or at least my seam allowance isn't going to be as large. Anyway, so this is the 11-inch frame. It's actually closer to like 11 1/4. So we're going to add in the 8-inch. Oh, sorry, that frame over there is the 17 by 11. So we're going to throw the 8-inch pieces in here. So, and Juan Lee, if you are still here, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. All right, so that should be an 11-inch piece, and that should be an 11-inch. We're going to use these pieces, and then we'll pop. So this is the 8 by 8 frame, I think. At least it should be. Yeah. Again, it's like 8 1/4. I'm gonna go with it's an 8 1/4, because if it's a little bit loose, I would prefer that, because it's easier for you to like, it's easier to get this product on and off the actual like grime guard, or off the frame or the hoop, if it's like a tick larger. Although that, I should write that down, because that would be good to know to actually make frames for the 8 by 8 hoop. It's funny, because I've never actually used a Q-snap frame. I do know that they're super popular though, so that's why we're going to do some for these guys, and then we're going to do some for the 8-inch hoop. Okay, so if these are both 8 1/4, that means, yeah, there we go. Okay, and yeah, that's like 11 1/8. 11, I'm going to say 11 1/4. So we're going to do, math is not my strong suit right now, but let's see. Okay, so this is the current cut for that then. Well, that's going to be like, oh no, okay. Like, that's going to be way too huge, but it's not going to be that bad. Okay, so the other part of this is that that also included then a significant amount more fabric to actually wrap around the frame. But that's okay, because then you can actually stuff more embroidery fabric underneath. I'm not that worried about that part of it. But it is just a tick too large. Well, it's about a half. It would be baggy. Okay, so I'm going to measure the overlap there and see how much overlap there is. So yeah, it's too large by like 1.5 inches. Now the seam allowance on this, and that I'm going to use to actually finish it's going to be about 1/2 inch. So what I'll do is I'll trim off 1 inch of fabric, and then we should be good. So I'll trim the inch, rewrap it, and then I will and then I'll serge it with everything else. I'm not going to reserge it right now. What am I doing? I need to go there. So that tells me that the hoop frame as well probably needs about 1 inch off, but we will wrap it to first and see what it needs to do. All right, so that's 8 by 11. Looking at the frame size, personally, that's probably one of the largest ones I would use, just because the main reason of the Q-snaps is it's supposed to be a little bit more ergonomic. Oh, that's still got quite a bit of overlap. Oh, but that'll give a little bit of wiggle room, so that like once you actually get fabric in there and stuff like that, there's some wiggle room. And if the frame itself, they're all going to be slightly different. They're not all going to be perfectly the same. So yeah, there still ended up being about 1 inch of overlap. Man. Yeah, there's 1 inch. Okay, so, but if we take 1/2 inch, then that means that there'll be like 1/2 inch extra fabric around the edge, which can easily be taken up by stuff like fabric that you're going to put in the frame. All right, I'm happy with that. So it needs to be 1 inch smaller than the math that was being called for on the guide I was using. Okay. Now we're going to do the same. So this is actually a frame with grime guard on it already. This is one of the old style grime guards. I was pretty chintzy with the fabric, so it's like The 6 inches is going to wrap around a lot nicer. It's going to give you a larger surface area to hold on to. Granted, with the 8-inch frame, you don't want it to be taking up too much of the frame. This is an 8-inch frame, right? Yeah, it's actually a 9-inch frame. So this may or may not work. Who knows? Well, we're gonna find out. This might actually work better for the 9-inch frame. And then it would still fit on an 8-inch frame as well. Just, nope, it's not gonna work. Yeah, that's way too tight for a 9-inch. Okay, and I don't have an 8-inch around. But yeah, you can see that's too tight for the 9-inch. It's like actually worked around the frame itself. All right, so we're gonna say the same thing as we said for the Q snap, and I'm gonna cut an inch because it is gonna be too large. Sorry if that was super loud. Should probably have a headphone warning on because it's just like there is a lot of banging that can occur. Alright, I'm going to pop this back on here because it's still a good example of what a grime guard actually is. That's what I'm making right now. This is one of the old style, which was I think this one got French seamed. But it definitely I used the hem foot on it. It's still a really like serviceable grime guard, but oh, I did a fold back style with like a hem. So I tried to hem the edges, fold back the edges and hem them, and then like around the edge as well. So it still works really, really well, but the serger style ones with these should actually last better. Okay, we're gonna take an inch off of this. We're gonna say that all of these need to be an inch smaller than the pattern says, simply because that'll still leave a ½ inch of wiggle room on the frame and the hoop, so it's not going to be too tight, but it also allows for like variances in, say, the fact that not everything is constructed exactly the same. And then obviously for a 9-inch frame, I'm going to have to go with an actual larger cut. It would just be 9 times pi. So be about 28 inches or something. It's not that big a difference, but it's just enough that that one doesn't fit. All right, so with these ones, I'm just gonna cut the edges off because I'm already trimming the selvage anyway. I might as well just trim everything right here. So we figured out it needs to be that. I need to actually line the selvages up because that would be helpful if that's what I'm cutting. And we're going to do this. Now, I could line up a few of these, and I might actually do that here in a couple minutes. And then, oh, I see what I need to do. I need to actually bring it over here, line up the fold here, and then bring this over. Oh, this is breaking my brain tonight because now it's not a nice even number, it's an odd number. Okay, well, let's trim the selvage off because that'll help figure out the math. And then it needs to be that. Okay, so from there, I see part of what the problem is. I do need to cut it this direction because otherwise I will break my brain. Okay. All right, there we go. And then we're going to cut it here. There is the trim off point. Sweet. All right, I am going to finish the rest of the Coke Zero because hopefully the caffeine will actually help me get the last of this finished. I'm going to keep these scraps for myself for those cat pouches because they're adorable. Now I can't remember where I actually was putting them. Oh, right there. Okay. Just one moment here. I'll finish off this caffeine. Okay. Okay, so that is a white thread grime guard, and then this is the one that needs to be smaller. So it's going to be that. So that actually helps because that makes that an even number to trim, which is awesome. And we're going to go from this selvage. No, we're going to go from here, and then we're going to fold it in half. And that's how we're going to get this lined up. I don't know why I'm doing it this way, but all right. Making it the most difficult I can for myself, apparently. All right, there we go. And then I haven't decided what I'm actually going to make out of the other portion of this cut, because this would actually be quite a large scrunchie. It would be very thick. And so I think this might end up becoming notions pouches, just a little bit, maybe just a little bit larger than what I normally make. That's where it's going to go. This is not a... Why are you over there? And why are you here? Okay, you're going to go on the bottom of the pile because you were scattered, and I'm not 100% why. Sure why. Sorry, stop the bounce in here. I just knocked it with the fabric, so sorry that there's a little bit of a jiggle there. Okay, white top stitching, or white serger. So let's line a bunch of these up just so I can get them all done at once, hopefully. This one's going to be the larger of the two, smaller of the two. Larger. There we go. Smaller. Larger. There we go. Smaller. Smaller. And then I'll separate them up into the dark and light. Serger threads, basically white and black serger threads. It's not dark and light, it's white and black. That's the only two threads, colors I really have. I do have metallic threads as well, but I don't use them very often because they break in my machine, like my actual sewing machine, so often, and I don't know what else to do with them. I would really like to be using them for the top stitching on like the Obi projects, but it's just like, for the amount that they break, it's not worth it. So we're going to go here, and that's the marker I want there. Nice zip, and that's taken off all the selvages and everything too. Those will go in my strip pile. And then this is going to be white top stitching. This will be dark top stitching. The pile that I'm putting them on over here for the dark top stitching are also the cake cozies that need to be done. White top stitching is going to be the least distracting on that. Black, and this one is going to be white. Okay, let's finish up the large cuts on all of these. Line up the selvages a little bit better than that, just so well, I guess it really doesn't matter in this case. Although it does, because that is quite a bit of space in between them. Hey Andrea, how you doing tonight? I actually finally figured out this dual camera thing, which I have been trying to get for the last few months. So I'm super pleased with my progress with it today. I even figured out that I actually need to make sure that the everything's plugged in so it doesn't die in the middle of the stream. Because my phone earlier when I was experimenting actually ran out of battery, so that was fun. It's like, oh well, that's a good lesson to learn now instead of when it's really busy. So always something different. So right now I'm working on grime guards. Earlier today I went through and processed a lot of the scraps for the knot bags, from the knot bags for cake cozies and like wristlets and all of that. That's good. The heat in Alberta finally broke, so that was a relief, to be honest. Although we are getting a lot of smoke, I think probably from the Northwest Territories and Kelowna as well. So it's kind of smelled like someone had just doused a campfire here, which was, can't imagine what it's actually like living there. But it wasn't pleasant here either. Okay, we're gonna do one stack here, and then I've got 3 more to actually trim down. But anyway, the next step to like update the stream is I'll make sure that I get some lights on the overhead as well, because I can see that it's starting to yellow out. I don't have any very good lighting above this desk. And I really want to get like a proper overhead mount so that you're like sitting up here instead of kind of at this angle like you are right now. Obviously working with what I have right now, which is good. But I did have Omatsuri this past weekend, which went very well. So if you're at Omatsuri and visited the booth or visited any of the vendors there, thank you so much. It was so busy. I don't think I've been to that busy of a show for a very long time. It was impressive. I think they said on Friday night, which was the first, so this is the first year that they did like a 2-night event. So on Friday night, I think they said they had something like 2,000 people, which is insane. Saturday, I think they said they had 1,500 tickets pre-sold, and then obviously at-door sales as well for the Saturday. And one guy was saying that he had 500 on his iPad alone, and those were not connected. So it was busy. There's a few things I would personally change up. I will change up my booth setup next year. I'll make sure that I rent 2 tables instead of the 1, but I usually take it a little bit more cautious with my setups. Well, because of the expense. You never know what an event's going to do. And the other really cool thing, though, about these Japanese events I've been doing this year has been how welcoming they are overall. I've really appreciated it. When I first got into like the world, the craft show world, it was not exactly a very welcoming place. And I appreciate the fact that it was so much more welcoming at this event. And I've been felt very welcome at all the like Japanese festivals that I've been at. That's not to say that every event that I've been to has been like that, but the vast majority when I first started out were definitely not very friendly. And I guess at the same time, I was new competition coming in too, so who knows. But yeah, it was a very good event, and I will be back next year. I'm also going to be throwing in my application in Calgary for Oda Fest, which is the anime convention on May long weekend, and I think that will be a lot of fun as well. Okay, so that is, I guess I need to actually sort out the dark ones, because that's just, I'm like, these are all the ones that are the large ones. It's like, no, those are the white top stitch ones. Okay. That's definitely going to be black. That's going to be white. This is going to be dark, light, and dark. Okay, now I need to grab the one short one, and then what I'm going to do, since I've already basically have a template set up, is I'm going to take it and I'm just going to use it to lay out against these other pieces to make them the correct size as well. Glad I clued in, so I had to make some adjustments. I was using a guide for how much fabric I should actually be cutting, and I figured out that I probably need less because I don't have any seam allowances really, because I'm serging the product. Granted, I'll have a little bit, but not much. I can't sandwich it, so we're going to lay these out like this. And then what I'll do is I'll pop that set on top here. We do have quality control inspector on duty tonight. It's Flynn. And then up over my shoulder, actually you can probably see him. That black blob up there is actually a cat that I brought back from Japan. It's Chachamaru. I saw these stuffed cats in November, and they were spectacular, but they're quite expensive. They were more expensive than I wanted to spend at the time, considering how much I'd already spent in Japan, because I saw them on my last day, like in Tokyo. But I figured out that they were handmade in Japan, which definitely obviously increases their value quite a bit. Handmade anything will. And when Caroline and I went back in May, they still had at least a selection of these cats. So I ended up with the black cat because I was like, he's just too good not to bring home. I don't know why it's a he. I think it's the facial structure. Looks like a male cat. I'm just making assumptions. Cha-cha maru. It's written with the kanji for tea, so it's like TT circle, which is really fun. But yeah, so he's been around to, well, he came to the Ancient Arts Yarns Pancake pop-up in July, and then he'll be hanging around doing some events like that probably over the next few years. So as I find space to carry him with me to events. Alright, so that is a light stitch, that is dark, light. Could I sort these by lights and darks before I cut them? Yes. Would it take me just as much time? Also yes. Alright, so we're going to stack these before I put the template on top, because that does make more sense. And because I think if I do that, then I probably can get most of these fabrics cut in one fell swoop. Or at least that can be the hope and dream. Alright. You have a significant amount of selvage. Oh yes, but the selvage will be cut off on the other end as well. We'll make sure that it gets trimmed on this end and cut off on the other end. Alright, and then when we go to actually serge these, because the serger is just sitting down beside me, I'll switch the camera to actually the POV harness, because when I did the experimental serging with the ones to see if I need to change the seam allowance, you couldn't see anything. You were basically watching, so I'd spool off, and that's kind of boring. Maybe if I was doing like an ASMR video, but I'm not. I'm chatting the whole time. So, or the majority of the time. I try not to leave too much dead air. There we go. Alright. Let's line these all up, and then we'll get them cut in one fell swoop. Because there's only 2 more fabrics to add, which means that the current rotary cutter that I have should be able to handle all of them. Make sure that they're majority lined up. And yeah, I'll trim off this top selvage. Most of the time I leave the selvage in because it ends up being sewn into a zipper, so you don't see it anyway. It adds I think it adds a little bit of stability into the bag, etc. But in this case, with such visible hems and seams and all of that, I do like to trim the selvage off most of the time. Unless it blends in. If it blends it, like if it's white and has the maker's mark on it, definitely I want to cut it off. So like I don't want to have coca necessarily running in the thing. Now if you want that, let me know. It does save me a little bit of work not to have to cut it off, but like in this case where it's a really ratty edge too, I definitely want to cut that off. Because what we're trying to do with the serging is to preserve the fabric so that it's not unraveling while you're using it. There we go. Now that's going to go into the scrap pile to go out of the house. And then we're going to line this up like this, and then we're going to lay this one here like that, and then we'll just scoot it over and we'll rotary cutter it right here. Oops. Make sure that the tail end or other ones that have already been cut aren't underneath it. Oof, that would be a disaster. I actually cut my knot bag template like that this year because it was laying under stuff I was cutting. I'm like, where did my knot bag template go? And then I lifted the fabrics I just cut, and it was right there. I was so annoyed with myself. Alright, so, and then these are just getting set aside because I don't know what I'm doing with them yet. We'll figure it out later. And that's fine. Alright, so light. Then we're going to do dark, and then Macaron Critters is going to go light as well. Light, and then the cats underneath are going to be dark. Light, dark, light. Okay, I'm gonna put the BRB sign up because just so I can transfer the phone without making people like motion sick. But I will be right back. I'll be able to chat with you on the mic as I'm doing this as well, which is kind of cool, kind of annoying. I need to figure out how to mute the mic so that when I don't want to be heard, I'm not getting heard. I will answer the scrap question afterwards, just in case that didn't mute it for some strange reason. It doesn't sound like it though. All right. Turn you around. Okay, we are harnessed in. Serger on the desk, and then we can get it plugged in. All right. Of course, now I can't put it on the hoodie, so we'll clip it on the. Alright, so we're going to be a little bit wobblier. Sorry. This thing is so much fun and so ridiculous. So you can kind of see it in the actual like desktop view. I laugh at it every time, but it is useful. When I was in Japan, I actually just basically put my backpack strap over it, and that worked really, really well. Anyway, as for my scraps... Sorry, this should actually be muted so that you can't hear me through my phone. So let me see if that actually helps. Kind of. Oops, no, I don't want to turn the video off, but I do want to mute you. Okay, so that should be better. Maybe. Sorry, like I said, I'm still learning how to use this. Anyway, as for where I send my scraps, I actually send my scraps basically to anyone who wants them. I usually do try to sell them on if I'm not using them for projects that I have in like already planned out. So obviously, like when I'm making the knot bag stuff, those aren't really scraps. I count them as offcuts, which means that then I use them for the triangle pouches and all of that. All right, I actually have to plug this in still. Anyway, but some of the scraps that I'm creating right now, I am going to actually be using towards the, there's a really cute little like cat pouch, and so I want to use them towards that, which will be friggin' adorable, I think. Alright, yes, I have room for everything in that. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to do the white top stitching first, or white serging first, because that's the thread that I already have in the machine. Perfect, and you can see it really well. Let me know if you can't hear me over the machine, same as always. Although I have a feeling it should work. Who knows? Again, I don't. I just hope you're not hearing like the feedback of me talking, since the phone speaker is like, or mic and speaker are right there. I've got the phone mic muted, but I keep hearing myself very slightly through there. So with the grind guards, we obviously had to do new cuts because most of these are nearly or mostly the full width of the fabric. And there's no way really to have scraps that are full width fabric unless it's the offcuts from like the larger bags that I'm obviously cutting. I am chain piecing all of these just like I do everything else because it's actually super easy on the serger to do that. Probably easier than even doing it on the sewing machine. I just got distracted by the actual like view on the computer. That was super cool, sorry. This is why I wanted the dual camera, because it's like so much action happens in front of me that you just do not see. Alright, although at the same time, let's see if I can actually mute my video on the actual camera. Alright, I literally just locked it, so that is probably not going to work very well. Okay, so it is that way. And then now it sounds like I'm probably muted. Am I muted? Basically, what I don't want you to hear is to hear me on the actual phone. Right, that should be better. Sorry, and I'm going to turn you so that you can actually see what I'm doing here again. I like how before I was like, I'm going to do the BRB so that I don't make anyone sick. And now I'm just like, let's just get this in here. Okay. The only problem with this harness is that it is really tight. So just bear with me a moment as I do get it snapped back in here. It's a learning experience. You're along for the learning experience. There we go. Okay. What I do like about the Streamlabs is that it would allow me to actually change out how the camera view is done. So I did actually change the camera view from the really wide to the little bit smaller camera view because that made sense. Now the other thing I'm thinking is that I probably could actually throw the mic on the camera on, and then it would probably be a better sound anyway. And hopefully no feedback from the actual laptop, because the laptop I could turn right down. For some reason it's not letting me turn the phone all the way down, probably because what they're assuming is that it's a collab cam between like 2 or 3 people, not me with myself. Although it is set up for desk view, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Looking at this though, I definitely need to actually get some better lighting on this, in part for myself, because this is not very bright to work with. Now obviously I'm not cutting a bunch of stuff off of this fabric, or at least I'm not cutting it off consistently. Yeah, so there is a little bit of feedback as well. So there's still some tech issues to work out for sure, and I am sorry for that. Probably what I need to do in this case is actually take the mic off and turn the mic on the phone back on might work, but I don't want to take it back out of the harness again because that would make me nauseous watching someone else do it. But, so a lot of these, or all of the fabrics that I'm working with tonight are from my trip to Japan in November. If you're new to Atelier Nekozuki, I go and I hand select all my fabrics in Japan. Originally, I was an exchange student in Japan, and that was an experiment to see if I wanted to actually go teach English in Japan. I decided at the time that I did not. I think if I had to make that choice again right now, I would. But at the time, it wasn't the right decision for where I was in my life. But so instead what I do is I go and I buy fabric. That's the short story. The long story is I started making project bags about 10 years ago now, almost actually over 11 years ago. And I was one of the only project bag makers in Alberta, so not a lot of competition. And then competition started developing, and that's fine. But I needed something that would set me apart because, of course, we're all working from a limited fabric pool. Spoon flower was a little bit of a thing, but not much. And so I really liked cats. And I'm like, okay, so let's do this, and but the North American cat fabrics at the time were not super cute. It was really hard to find cute cat fabrics in North America. And so I went, okay, let's look at the cute cat fabrics in Japan, because I am 100% sure they've got some super cute cat fabrics in Japan. And having been an exchange student there, it just all flows into itself very nicely. And what ended up happening is I started importing through an Etsy seller. I think they're still selling on Etsy or online, and I'm 100% sure. And I did that for a while, but it wasn't going to be sustainable. So my husband and I made our first trip to Japan in 2016. And I told my husband at that time that, hey, we should check what the cost of purchasing fabrics in Japan actually is. And it turned out that it was and it still is, about a 40% savings for me to actually go to Japan and source the fabrics there myself. I don't ship any of the fabrics to myself. I actually bring it all home in my luggage, because that's part of the savings, is not having to ship it. But it's also cutting out the middleman. And the other benefits to it being not just cost savings, but I'm actually able to go touch the fabric. I'm able to see the colors in person. Like, as knitters, we know that tactility is so important. We want to feel the yarn, and we want to see it in person, so we can color match and make sure that it's not too scratchy or whatever. In my case, it's making sure that the colors are going to work for a North American aesthetic a little bit more. Although I find that Japanese color combos are so good. And stuff that, and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily assume that goes well together with a North American aesthetic. They just pull off so well. Anyway, yeah, I cut out the middleman, and so I'm able to see them rather than through a computer screen. One of the shops that I do shop at in Kyoto does actually do international shipping now, but part of this is that just wasn't available unless I was using Etsy at the point. So that was one thing. The other thing is that it's really difficult to order more than a meter. It's really difficult to order multiple colorways in the fabrics that I like, and then the shipping itself is restrictive. Now, as restrictive as a plane ticket? Yes, actually, when I think about it, because I think the cost for me to actually ship the amount that I pack into my luggage would be about $300 to $500. So granted, that would be shipping it very quickly so that I would receive it in any kind of timely manner, but it ends up being restrictive, and that's for the amount per bag. So even with the amount, the cost of actually ending up having to you have to pay for your second bag now, almost, at least the Air Canada flight I took in May, you had to. Even with that, it's still cheaper to go over and pay the extra baggage fees. So that's what we do. And in the past, and even in May, I ended up paying for an extra, a third bag, which is awesome because it means that you can go up to 70 pounds. The only drawback to it is that I found out, so in Japan, you can actually ship your luggage throughout the country. And so we shipped luggage to Narita and everything like that, so we didn't have to haul it on the trains. But the drawback to that was that the one bag was actually too heavy. So we could only go up to 32 kilos, which I think is just under 70 pounds. It might be 70 pounds exactly. I'm not 100% sure. Or it might have been 30 kilos. We had to pull 2 kilos out. So it's probably 30 kilos. So we had to pull out 2 kilos so that we could ship this bag, because their upper limit was 30 kilos. So that's good to remember that Takubin, which is the luggage delivery system, does not accept luggage over 30 kilos. And just to keep that extra 2 kilos out in a bag so that you can pack it at the airport. Although the discrepancy between that and the max weight on the airline is kind of funny. Granted, that is a lot of fabric, and it's really hard amount of fabric to move around. So I 100% agree and understand. I just think it's funny. Although I guess once you get to an airport, it mostly gets put on a belt. So the only person that's really handling it might be the check-in agent. And I always go to the check-in agent because I have the third bag. And I've had issues in the past with the third bag not printing its actual baggage tag. It's been like, go up to the counter to check in. So it was funny coming back with Caroline in May, because it was just like we had like 2 luggage carts absolutely loaded down with our luggage, which she thought was funny, because she's like, oh man, it's like 2 rich ladies with like all their hat boxes and everything, but it's just all fabric. I'm like, yep, that's how traveling with me to Japan goes. All right, last one for the long side here, or at least that's one long side done on all of these, which is awesome. This is so much better than trying to fight that hemming foot on my machine. So basically what ends up happening now is I'll go through and I will fold it over and do I think I will actually press it with these ones. With the cake cozies, it's pretty easy to do the actual amount of hem that I want without having to worry about that stuff. Having to worry about pressing it or anything like that. I don't even know if I clipped it. I think I just held it. But probably what I'll do is I'll take that little seam roller that I have now and actually seam roll it to hold it down, especially on the cake cozies. All right, so there's the 2 sassy cats. On Moon's done. If you ever look on the website, sassy cat actually refers to all black cat fabric, because I have a tiny little black cat. She's 9 pounds soaking wet if you could get her in the water. And she's got the biggest attitude, so that's why all black cat fabrics are called sassy cat fabrics. Okay, that just went through a really slow point there, so hopefully it's a little bit smoother now. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, good. All right, so now typically I go down the other long side and then we'll do the short sides. So off we go again to the races. This fabric with all the cats and the cans on it is super fun. It's called, there's one can that's called Osakana Heaven. Osakana in Japanese is fish, so it's fish heaven. And it's just all these cats lazing around on these cans. It's just fun. There's a lot of fun fabric in Japan, but like some of them just take the cake, and this is one of them for sure. All right. This side is actually easier because we've already got them kind of chain pieced together, so it's just like, and the next, and the next, and the next. So actually what I maybe should do is, I'm like debating, I should probably serge the next round with the black just so I don't get hung up on that. But I could also take these and actually sew them at the sewing machine now, after I get the other side serged, obviously. Like get all 4 sides serged. But I'll decide that, I guess, in a few minutes. I'll see where I'm at. I'm enjoying just sitting at the serger and going like this. I don't know, there's something therapeutic about just straight stitching. By the way, if you have been keeping up and watching, I did finish all the Obi stuff that I said I was going to. At least, so I finished the Obi wallets and the Obi wedge purses. I was having a heck of a time finishing those wallets on stream, so that's why I actually went off stream. They went better. I'm not going to say that they went perfect. They're all fine. They're a really good product. I'm really happy with the quality of how they came out, but I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had stayed on stream. It's ridiculous how many issues those wallets caused me. Now the Obi wedge bags did cause some issues of their own, but they went together pretty smoothly, so I'm quite happy with how they turned out as well. But yeah, I'm really, 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 really pleased with how the upcycled Obi wallets came out. They are absolutely spectacular. So as I said earlier, all my fabrics are hand selected in Japan. Any Obi that I use are actually purchased at temple markets or secondhand stores in Kyoto. And the wallets that I'm talking about are actually lined in kimono that I purchased when I was there at a temple market in November. And this is not my own idea. This was another maker at the market. She had lined her Obi bags in kimono, and it's such a good idea because there are not only a lot of Obi at these markets, there's a lot of kimono as well. And so I ran with that idea for these wallets, and they are absolutely spectacular. The obi are difficult to work with. They are very slippy slidey. They've got a lot of drape once you remove the, basically it's 2 layers. So it's an upper layer and a bottom layer. And or a lining, so the exterior and a lining. And once you remove the lining from those pieces, they want to go everywhere, because of course it's silk or it's some sort of silk blend. I don't know if they're all silk. I do not do burn tests on them. It's very likely that they're silk or silk polyester blend, though. They are very drapey. It doesn't matter. They're very drapey. So they were going everywhere. So what I figured out that I needed to do was actually to interface the kimono before I even cut them. So I actually kind of did like very large rough cuts, and then I cut them down into the specific sizes that I needed instead, just because then there wasn't so much of a hassle with them. I actually saw a suggestion about 2 days later to take gridded pattern paper and place it on gridded pattern paper so that you square it up and then like cut from there. And that's a really good idea too, especially with something where you're not going to interface it. Thankfully, because I was going to interface it, that saved me that trouble at least. But yeah, I was like struggling to cut it, and then we struggled to interface it, and then I struggled to sew them, and I'm just like, I need to stop talking while I'm doing this, or else these aren't going to go anywhere. So, I apologize for not showing the last of the process for those wallets. Once I get more practice with them, or if I'm working with like a cotton linen blend that isn't quite so difficult, I think that's probably going to be better. But for those ones, it just wasn't working out. Some of these are so good. I love this fabric with the little cranes in the middle there and everything. Getting like a little dust bunny pile underneath. So this serger is secondhand off of Kijiji. I actually purchased it in 2020. Did not get it running and working until 2021. There wasn't anything wrong with it, but I just didn't take the time to sit down and learn how to use it. We are going to clear it out here because apparently there are a bunch of offcuts. And actually, I'm just going to leave that open because then they kind of can fall out as I work here. Anyway. So I got it in 2020 off Kijiji. I did not know how to thread it when I first got it. I do have the benefit of industrial threading, so all of this upper stuff was fairly straightforward. But I actually installed my needle the wrong direction. I installed it like I would install it on an industrial machine. Hello, you're not supposed to be up there. You're supposed to be down here. So my thread just wouldn't work because obviously my needle wasn't facing the right direction. And then it's like a throwaway line in the manual about what direction your needle is actually supposed to be facing. Granted, I did not read through my manual very well, but seriously, it was like one throwaway line. So I saw someone, I think it was the Kawasaki version of this, because there's multiple versions of this coming out of Japan at that time. This is just one of them. But it was the green version. I think it was Kawasaki. Basically the same threading and everything. And they just mentioned that you have to put the needle in eye facing you instead of like to the side. And so that got me running and going. And then last year, the actual like this feeder foot, and I've talked about this before, but it was like wavering back and forth. And at that point, I was pretty much done for Knit City. At least what I needed to do on the serger, and I needed to get hustling on getting other stuff done, so I set it aside for the year, basically. So it's just like, I don't have time for this. I'll figure it out next year, and that's what I did. About a month ago, I sat down with it. Well, didn't sit down with it. I stood with it on my cutting table and took it off. So I had to take the faceplate off. And up here, just behind this little knobby, is actually the shaft for this. And it was just a small screw that actually needed to be tightened. So I was very glad to not have to take it in for service, because service, I'm sure, on this would be ghastly. It actually would be, I would be curious to see how much it would cost. Because in part, there's probably a little bit more maintenance that does need to happen to it, because I was seeing that there was some sort of motor brush that needs to be changed occasionally. And so that probably is coming due as well, because this is not a young machine. And I don't know, because it's secondhand, and it was secondhand to the person that I bought it from secondhand. So I'm at least third hand, if not more. The last service that I got was in Salmon Arm, British Columbia. I bought it from someone in High River. It's been through a lot of travels. So getting it serviced is probably still a good idea, but I'll do it when I'm out of the height of my show prep period. Because otherwise we'll just end up putting out of commission for too long. Probably after I'm done all these grime guards and cake cozies, it can go in, but if I take the time to do it is another thing. It's nice though that it was so easy to repair, because I don't know with a like more modern machine, like there are definitely some benefits to modern machines, but I don't know if I would have been able to take it apart like that and repair it myself. And I figured if I couldn't figure out, then I would have taken it in for service anyway. It's just like, I may as well try first, so. Okay, so we're gonna finish off all these long edges, and then we'll do the short edges and like encase the long edge and edges, so like these stitches, into the actual like short edge serging. By the way, I have listed one of the Obi wallets online. It's the one that's in the preview reel that I just posted on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube with the show-off video. It's the orange one. It's got some very intricate weaving on top. And it's got like an orange gold fleck body, or gold flecked orange body. That's the best way to describe it. Can't tell. They must be strawberries. Maybe they're dragon fruit, but I think they're strawberries. Looks like strawberries to me. So these will be hemmed and then ready for Knit City. Knit City Vancouver is September 22nd to 24th, with the market being the 23rd and 24th. I may have some tickets to give away, which is super exciting, but I will do that closer to the event. Once people kind of settle into who they know they're going to be going with and stuff like that. So I'll run that on my Instagram page sometime in September. But it'll be a couple marketplace tickets and a ticket to the keynote lecture as well. So if you're planning to come to Knit City, you can always enter there. And I know the sponsors typically have tickets to give away as well. I'm not sponsoring this year. I have in the past. But I decided it just was not the best decision for me to do this year. I still love that event though. It's one of my favorites to do. Busy, the energy is usually really good. And this year there is no lunch break or like timed entry or anything like that. So there's weekend passes and Saturday and Sunday passes available. So feel free to come down at any point. I don't know the exact hours yet. I'll let you know once I either figure that out or I find out myself. All right, we're to the end. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the short ends and I'm going to just run some stitches like that. And then we're going to throw it back underneath and it'll get cut off. Like that. And then we'll take the other short end and we're going to throw it underneath. Pull these around so that they're on my lap and a little bit easier to manipulate. And then we'll throw it under like this. Is that safe? I doubt it. I usually try to keep my fingers a little bit further away from that knife, but you know, sometimes that just can't happen. There we go. Now we'll throw this one underneath. There, I can do it a little bit further away with the fabric. And yes, all of these threads need to be trimmed when they don't get trimmed by the machine, obviously. So now my next adventure with the serger is I do want to make my husband a hoodie. there's a very specific style of men's hoodie that we like he looks the best in. So it's a raglan hoodie, which if you're a knitter, you know it's the angled sleeves on the angled sleeves instead of like set-in sleeves, which don't fit him as well because of the breadth of his shoulders. So the raglan, it just looks better. Aesthetically, it is more pleasing for both of us. And there's lots of raglan pullovers, but there are very few raglan hoodies with zippers, and it's been such a pain to find. So we're going to, that's my next adventure, and it's going to be like one of my first forays into actual garment sewing. It's going to be my first time serging a garment. But I figure it's going to be pretty straightforward because it is a raglan sleeve. It's not a set-in sleeve, so that's going to be to my benefit. I have the understanding from knitting about how to fit things a little bit. Obviously, I don't know much in how to do it in sewing, but I'm going to take one of his like favorite hoodies that he has and more or less just copy it onto the current or onto the new fabric. So. Or the other issue, so the other issue that ends up happening is it's not only that they may, or like, so if they don't have a raglan hoodie with a zip, they do have a raglan hoodie with a zip, but it's not in the right color. Either like too dark or not colorful enough, or it's got like a giant logo in it, and neither of us really, it's so annoying. It's like so hard to find a hoodie these days that fits a fairly specific criteria. I understand that, but still. I think one of the best ones I've seen recently, but it doesn't have the right colors right now, is the Oberon hoodie from 10 Tree. But he's also very hard on his hoodies, so it's kind of like, anyway, if I can figure out how to like draft it and actually get the hoodie sewn, it's going to be better than a store-bought hoodie anyway, hopefully. It'll also be easier to repair, because one of the spots that actually wears out the fastest typically is not the like cuffs, but the pockets. So right on that edge where they connect to the body, like usually the body edge, of course, because it's a high wear area, because the hands going in and out consistently, and like keys and stuff that's going to be held in pockets, blah blah blah. Anyway, it tends to wear out faster. So if I've already sewn it, then I can like patch it and stuff like that too, because I'll have more of the fabric. So that's the next adventure. That's going to be over the winter when I'm not sewing for work. Or at least, well, sewing for work is a little bit slower. Can't really slow down next year. So, and I don't need to next year. The kids will both be in some form of childcare, which will be good. So my youngest is coming up on the end of their naps, which is good and sad. Their naps aren't very restrictive for getting stuff done. It's more nice to have the time to actually get stuff done while they're sleeping, because the youngest is the mischief maker that likes to get into everything. And they do. Not that my eldest doesn't, but the youngest is definitely the bigger culprit for that sort of stuff. Alright, so I think what we're going to do is I am just going to go through and serge everything. So that means once I'm done the white serging, we'll go through and rethread with black. I'm going to try the hack where you tie the colors together and then just kind of have them, like, hand crank them through, because the knots in the thread will not go through the eye of the needle. And if I have to rethread it, I have to rethread it. Again, it's not a big deal. Or at least I don't find it a big deal because of my experience with the industrial sewing machine. Because this setup with all the dials and everything like that is basically like the Juki. And we're almost to the end of the actual serging, which is awesome. Then yeah, I'll have to figure out if I want to actually do the elastic or if I'll get my friend to help with them next weekend. Might just get my friend to help with them next weekend so that tomorrow I can move on to think what we're going to move on to tomorrow is large box bags. So that'll be for restock for Knit City, as well as Paula's wholesale order. Because I was thinking about today, I was looking at the box of stuff for Paula and all the kato at the bottom. So I'm thinking I'll sew the large box bags, but what I'll do, the very first thing I need to do is cut all the lining pieces for the large box bags I want for my shop and the interfacing. So we'll do that, and then we'll sew the large box bags. I've got a full work day tomorrow. The deal is that Dallas is looking after kids for this month because it is such a crunch period towards Knit City. And then hopefully I can slow down a little bit after. Well, let's see how Knit City goes. I'll probably have to work quite a bit afterwards as well. If you are looking to place a pick your own order, my best suggestion is to do it post Knit City, because I won't be getting to a lot of pick your own orders until after Knit City at this point. Alright, so I'm just going to double check that most of these are mostly caught at least. We'll do that actually as we're trimming edges. I just saw this one as I was trimming, so we'll just run over it again because that's what we do. There we go. Alright. And then, yeah, we'll trim them up and fix them up later. Okay, so next we're going to clean out a little bit of this fluff because it's going to impede the machine if it gets to be too much. I do have like a garbage thing over there. It's actually a thread catcher from Two Needles and some thread. They make some awesome products as well. Lots of stuff that I don't make, which is nice. So there was no way I would make myself a thread catcher. I pretty much no longer make myself project bags. I occasionally get the prototypes of stuff. So I have a prototype wallet of a wallet that I probably won't be putting into production, although there's nothing wrong with the pattern. It's hard. So maybe in a few more years again, once I have more practice again. It's kind of the same as like the drop-in linings. I was like, I can't do drop-in linings when I first started. And now it's like, that's all it is with the kato bags, is drop-in lining after drop-in lining. All right, so let's do this hack for the thread. I'll turn the phone up a little bit so that you can like the video itself, so that you can actually see the uppers here. So we're going to clip the thread and clip the thread. And then we're going to swap the cones because as far as I can tell, they actually do need to be in a very specific spot. I probably could have left these a little bit longer or just done one at a time, but you know, adventure, live and learn. So we're going to thread the black thread through the upper holder up here. And then I'm just going to tie basically an overhand knot. I'm going to leave it fairly long so that I can see where it is. And then I'll probably have to thread the needle. We'll try not to, but honestly I think that knot is too thick to get through the needle eye. So they have been in the past, but I think the needles that I had that came with this machine were actually a little bit more delicate. I put a heftier needle in because I figured out that the needles that I buy for my industrial machine, like the Juki behind me, actually work for making or for replacing in this too, which is awesome because it meant that I didn't have to like special order or go into Calgary to buy more needles when I started wanting to use this again this year. So, because when I was setting it up again, I definitely broke about 3 needles because needles break. Okay, that knot completely failed. So let's try this again. It's also getting to the point where I should close my blinds instead of having people walk by and stare in. But we can do that in a minute. Okay. I think that will work. And then that's like just half hitches. So let's do a proper overhand knot, please. Thank you. So I was looking at cost of flights to Japan because of course I'm daydreaming about going back right now since it's open and the kids need to go eventually. We've decided that we're going to go in 2025. We just don't know if we're going to do basically if it's going to be January, February, or January or March, we're going to apply for the Tokyo Marathon. So if we get into the Tokyo Marathon, we'll be going in March. That's basically the decider. But I was daydreaming about what flights cost and everything like that. And I was like, hey, what does premium economy cost? Because like the direct flight is through WestJet is decent. It's not insane right now, at least if you book it correctly. But the economy seating is like 3x3x3, which with 2 kids, I'm like, I don't want to be stuck in the middle of the oh, okay, apparently I need to actually like push the pedal. Anyway, I don't want to be stuck in the middle seat for like 10 hours. So I was like, could we book premium economy, which would have like the 232 setup, so we could book the 2 window seats with the kids and all of that. It would be nice, blah blah blah, nice and comfy. What is going on? Only one of these is pulling through. Curses. I bet you it's skipped out of the needle again. Anyway, why? How? Weird. Okay. Anyway, so I looked at the cost. It's like $15,000 for 2 people to fly premium economy. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. Not for a slightly more convenient flight of not staying in the middle seat. Now, granted, we've got a companion voucher and all of that, but that's still $7,000 round trip for one person. Maybe I'll bid on it and see if I can do it for cheaper. It will be a very nice plane, though, because it's the Dreamliner, and that is, like, one of my favorite planes in their fleet, or any fleet. I was lucky enough to actually fly in a Dreamliner from Vancouver to Tokyo in November, when I went for fabric then. I was really hoping that we'd have something similar when we flew over in May, but we didn't have any such luck because basically they stuffed us on. It's like, I was reading the stats on it because it's a 343 setup, and the stats on it went, well, this is the largest plane you can, or the most people you can get on an economy on this like width of body. Poor Caroline was going in and she was like, I thought that like the seats would be, or like it would be better. And I'm like, no, I knew this was going to be a cramped flight. They stuffed as many people on that plane as they could. Now, granted, Japan is very busy, and so obviously they want to fulfill the demand that's there, blah, blah, blah. But seriously, it was, that plane had 69 rows. Hey, I don't even have to untie those knots because that just switched. Sweet, sorry, I didn't realize that the camera was crooked. But anyway, we've switched to black, quite easy peasy. So that is actually quite a good view. I'm going to scoot my bum back here so I'm a little bit more comfortable in my seat. Yeah, no, so that flight had 69 rows. You would walk, like, so I walked to the back of the plane a couple times so that I could, like, get snacks and water and all that. And it was like you went and you went and you went and you went, and then you finally got to the back, if you were lucky. It was nuts. And there was people saying in the, like, that plane was full. I don't think there was an empty seat at all on that flight in May. It was nuts. All right, I think I'm going to go with, oh, those are the offcuts. Okay, right, because I already did the white stitching for the Cape Cozies. Okay, we're going to start on the short side of these guys, just because I can, or I want to. Anyway, yeah, so I don't think there's an empty seat. I think most of the time I would think that sitting in the very back row of economy would not be very pleasant. Except that the benefit on this plane apparently is because it starts to narrow so much at the back that they can't fit 3 seats. So if you sat in the very back, you would only have 2 people in a row, which would be nice as well. When Air Canada used to fly the direct flight from Calgary to Tokyo, they had a 232 setup on, like, in economy, and it still was the best flights. It was amazing. I love the Dreamliner, but I do wish that the Dreamliner was a 232 or 242 setup. for the actual like plane seats. So I know what a thing to complain about, but it is true. There's so many other things to worry about right now, and I'm like complaining about plane seating arrangements, but that is where we're at right now. Plane tickets are so expensive. So this is the insane part, is when I book a lot of flights through points, because it is still cheaper. But I went back and looked, because the flight that I booked for May was so expensive, even with points. Still was half the price, but with points it was still like $1,000 round trip. Because of all the surcharges. It was nuts. And like I looked back at some of the stuff that I used to pay for flights, and it was like $102. I'm just like, it made me really upset, actually. By the way, I'm pretty sure that premium economy class for WestJet, now I think it is a smaller, I think the Dreamliner is a smaller plane, but I'm pretty sure the business class for one person to Tokyo is with Air Canada, out of Vancouver, granted, still. The long leg of it, I think you can get business class, which is the lie flat seats with Air Canada, for about $7,000. I might be wrong. It might be 10. I would never pay that for a seat, because I'm just like, I would much prefer to spend that money actually in Japan on fabric, or like a nicer hotel, or like experiences. Yeah, today was just mostly like, it was like, if it's like, I don't know. I would have maybe considered premium economy if, like, for one person it was $3,500 round trip. Because with the companion vouchers for the kids, or whoever's going, it's quite a bit less expensive. Because I think the companion vouchers are more or less about, I think internationally they're about $320. So like quite a significant price difference, and savings as well, which is nice. Okay, those are cake cozies. So we'll finish the grime guards and then we'll do the cake cozy edges. So like that would mean that on average for premium economy, it would, if it was $3,500 per person round trip, it would be about $2,000 per person. And that kind of upgrade versus $1,500, which is the economy cost on a good day, to me is worth it. But $7,000 a person is not worth it for me right now. Even 4 would be a stretch, because that would still only be for 2 people, and we have 4 for the next trip. So when you start talking those costs, it's just like, nah. We'll splurge on our hotel or something like that. Thankfully, hotel prices in Japan have increased only minimally so far, so that's good. At least for the locations that we stay. I don't know about some others, but in Kyoto, they're about what I would expect to pay. With inflation increase, it's not the same, like the normal inflation increases, not insane inflation increases. So that's nice. At least that's the place. But it's funny because they're even putting up the cost of the JR pass. This little hook down here keeps loosening. So we're going to tighten it up again. If you hear a rattle, that's why. It's been jiggling around. There. Anyway, it's like Japan wants to increase their tourism, but now they're putting up the JR pass cost. Granted, as someone pointed out, it's like if $300 is going to make or break your trip to Japan, it's maybe not the best destination for you. But at the same time, it's like a $300 difference. Like, we will no longer be buying the JR pass because it's restrictive cost uppage for us. You look like you're supposed to be a cake cozy, but you're not cut to the cake cozy dimensions. What is happening here? That is not a cake cozy. I don't think that is meant to be a cake cozy either. Man, I went through and cut all these and now they're all mixed up. Okay, those are cake cozies. That's definitely cake cozies. And then that looks like it is also a cake cozy. Oh, okay. So there weren't as many, sorry, there just weren't as many dark grime guards as I thought as white ones. Okay, sweet. These are all cake cozies as well. Cake cozy, couple cake cozies. I probably should stitch this in white, but I've got black in the machine right now, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I definitely noticed an uptick. So I didn't notice, I got some killer deals on hotels because I just kind of kept pushing our booking out. Because Caroline and I originally planned to go to Japan last summer in July, and then obviously couldn't. But I got some absolute killer deals on our hotels. But I did definitely notice a little bit of an uptick in some of the food prices when we were there in May versus like November, which seems like it's pretty much everywhere that's doing that right now though too. So I'm just checking the measurements on this and make sure that we're good because it feels a little bit larger. That's okay. What time is it? Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Okay. So that means I've probably been on for about 2 hours. Yeah, just over 2 hours. Sweet. So probably what I'm going to do is I'll wrap up the serging tonight and see where my energy level is. And then if I'm up for it, I will do the hems on the white guards and cozies. And then yeah, I'm going to get my friend out to help run the elastics on all of these. So I probably will stay on stream for a little bit longer. Well, I have to anyway to finish up the serging, but probably even transfer over to the sewing table as well, because why not? Unless I'm out of energy by the time I'm done these. So, because there's still quite a stack of grime guards, or cake cozies to finish. So. It's funny because it's like usually these scrap projects are a total walk down memory lane of like fabrics that I've had for 5 or 6 years, or scraps I've like large usable offcuts that I've kept to like make stuff out of for since 2016. I'm actually coming up to the end of a lot of the 2016 fabrics, thankfully. But like the 2018, 2019 fabrics that have kind of been hanging around and just kind of slowly getting used up. But even with these ones, I'm noticing a little bit of a walk down because like this one's already been mostly used up from November. And so I'm like, oh man, it's like already a walk down memory lane, and these are like this year's fabrics. But that's just how it goes. It's been super busy this summer. So July was absolutely nutso. And then August hasn't been much better. I thought it was going to be a quieter month, and it's turned into like just as busy as July pretty much. So, well, maybe not quite as insane. We're not out of town or anything this month, which is good. But still. But it just seems to do that. Like last summer, we didn't do much. We don't tend to do a lot in the summer because, well, it's hot. And it's busy. So for us, especially because we're like right on the edge of tourist destination central for the Rocky Mountains. So we're about 45 minutes out of Canmore, an hour outside of Banff. We don't tend to go out to the mountains a lot over the summer. We go out a lot more in like the shoulder seasons. Although we were out in Canmore the other day on Thursday, and it wasn't that bad, or Wednesday. It wasn't bad, actually. The one nice thing that Canmore and Banff have done recently that's really awesome is that they've actually opened up their main streets for pedestrian traffic. So they've closed it down to vehicle traffic and opened it up to pedestrian traffic. That's something they started during COVID. the height of the pandemic, I should say. And they kept it, which is really awesome. So it gives a completely different perspective on the mountains in the town. It actually gives a completely different perspective on the buildings too, which is, and like businesses, which can't harm them either. And like when they had reduced in-store capacity and stuff like that, they actually had the ability to set up little like kiosks outside and stuff like that too, which was super cool. So yeah, I really like it. It makes it feel way less crowded to actually go into the town now. So towns, we haven't actually been out to Banff this summer, but we were out in Kenmore. That looks too wide. Did I cut you down? I hope I cut you down, because I would just like to tick along. Nope. Okay, so you're how big extra? Okay, so we're going to cut off this little part of the pattern. Why am I not doing the short ends? That's what we've been working on, Katie. Ah. Oh well. Thus the cookie crumbles in this one. Okay, so we just turn around and go back down. I think I mostly did that because it's just like, well, we've done the measurements. Time to get it under the machine. That definitely shows that I'm starting to actually lag in the brain power to... Alright, we may as well go through and actually finish the edge here, since we're already here and doing this. Okay, looks like I probably might need to change my tension up a little bit. May as well finish this one. There we go. Okay, so that pile is now separated. So I'll finish the rest of the edges on these ones, and then we'll obviously finish those other ones. Okay. Sorry for a little bit of jostling with the POV camera. Obviously it's strapped to my chest, and so it moves with me every time I do something. I need to maybe get a little bit more of a stabilizer. But this is a lot more interesting. I've actually got the gooseneck. You can kind of see it, this guy up here, and that's what the camera was in before, but you wouldn't have been able... I did some serging with the camera in that slot, and you couldn't see nothing. Because it was just like, oh, let's watch the thread pull off of the spools. That's kind of boring. That's really boring. So... though I do love the sound of this machine, even compared to like the Juki. It's just like so rhythmic compared to the Juki. It's also funny how each machine actually has their own like sound as well. A lot of these cuts actually came off of the big bags, which you'll see some of them run in a little bit different directions. So if they're running, if it's a directional print and they're running up and down, well, okay, if they're running the correct way, meaning that if it was directional and they're running this way on the fabric, that means that I cut them from the knot bag fabric. But if they're running like this guy and the directional is this direction, it means that they actually came from a big bag. So we're using up scraps even from that, or offcuts. They're not really scraps, they're so big, like, they're not scraps. They're offcuts. I definitely make scraps. This is a scrap. But most of my cuts are offcuts. And everything that I typically make things from are offcuts as well. So we did sort out a lot of the knot bag, the swoop in the middle between the handles is an offcut from the knot bag, and I do use that actually for the appliques that get applied to the canvas and the canvas bags and the notebooks. There isn't anything online right now because I need to sort through the stock and just check what I'm actually posting. But I now have some new fabrics to cut those appliques out of as well. That is like the main thing that I use my Cricut for, is cutting these appliques out to put onto those pouches and notebooks. So, and then obviously that creates scraps as well, but nowhere near as much as this whole like swoop of knot bag fabric. And those still end up getting diverted to someone to use as well. So hopefully. I know I just sent a humongous box off to a woman in southern Alberta. So I hope that she's able to put them to use. So, well, not a huge box, but it was probably about 10 pounds worth of scraps. I save my scraps until I am drowning in them typically. It's not healthy probably, but it's kind of like I want them to go to like people and or organizations that are going to use them. So I kind of understand the value of it as well. We'll also have quite a few obi and kimono scraps coming up because there'll just be some from like the wallets and stuff like that. You also look too wide. You look like we're going to do the same thing as we did last time. Okay, so I'm going to set you aside. I don't want to finish you right now. Okay. There we go. Actually, we're going to do the end seams on this and then do the side seams after. Their little end seam. All right, now we're going to go back and do all the side seams. This one we are going to just do now while I'm thinking about it, and I know that we need to trim some off. There we go. Snip, snip. Snip. And then this guy can be trimmed off of its neighbor and also from itself. Snip, snip. Like that. There we go. Okay, now this one needed to lose about that. Lace on this side, and then we'll cut another strip off the other side a little bit wider than I normally would for this sort of thing too. Now with this, I'll typically run down one side and then we'll just swap and run down the other side. In this case, we're just going to do this one at the same time because we knew we had to cut a little bit more off than has been typical. All right. See, I don't understand why sometimes the like thread pops out. Excuse me. Why it pops out, and other times it's like, yeah, I'm good to go. Just sew me. All right, we'll start here. And I am sorry for the feedback. I will have to figure that out here. Probably something like I should just connect the mic to the actual phone instead of the laptop. Excuse me. I'm just used to working on the laptop because that's what I've been streaming off of, because the mic that I actually have requires me to take my whole case off, and I have shattered the back of my phone. And have yet to take it in to get fixed. So that is something I am going to have to do soon because it is progressively getting worse. But we've had Flynn was in the emergency vet, so we got to pay that bill. We've got to pay that bill down first, and then I can worry about getting phones fixed. Apparently, it was in part the case that we had on it originally was, heard a lot of complaints about it. Apparently it was too loose, and so it wasn't actually protecting the phone. I believe that. It was an OtterBox, and I've never had any issues with it before, but both my husband and I shattered the back of our phones, and we both had the same case, so feels like it might be that. Yeah, I am hitting the end of my energy, especially with the talking. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I will serge everything here on stream. And then I'm going to take a break and I'll probably come back and sew, but I will not stream. Or if I stream, it'll be like ASMR stuff with no talking. Although this is very good practice to be streaming and doing the stream of consciousness for shows, because I am out of practice with talking all day. That was definitely proven with Omatsuri. My social batteries are definitely nowhere near what they used to be. What happened here? Okay. We had what? No, there we go. Okay, sweet. That's right. There. We're gonna let the machine do the talking for me for a little bit. Some of these fabrics are so good. So good. The other round of this stuff. Okay, I think that's all connected. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be mostly the grime guards. Oh, this machine must be set at an odd height because my back is much angrier than when I'm sitting on my normal machine. And my seat is at the right height too for it, so. Okay, let's see here. Where is the end? I don't remember which one I sewed last, but there's the jelly, so that'll lead the way. Okay, where should we go? Let's start with this side, that side. No, we'll start with this side, I think. Right? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. 3D processing issues for a moment there. So the one, I think one of the learning curves with the serger is it's actually sewing from basically the opposite side versus the sewing machine. So the 3D aspect that you learn with the other, like your normal machine, is a little bit thrown off. Since in the normal machine, your fabric usually comes in and the foot is typically to the left and your seam allowance points to the left, but with the serger it's actually to the right. Okay, sorry, something just dropped off and it scared the heck out of me. Whew. Alright. That totally made me mess up this grind guard, so we're gonna have to probably go back over it. Alrighty. It's just something dropping off the desk onto like the windowsill, but it was just unexpected. Scary. Jump scare. Oh my goodness. Okay, something is messing up with the, oh, I see what happened, because we did end up skipping a good section there. And so the threads just did not hold properly at all. Holy, okay. That unraveled very rapidly. Okay, so let's snip it. Actually, we'll just go back over it with the serger and trim it with the serger. Okay, clip, clip, clip. Oh, and it looks like it might have actually, nope, the thread is just running weird through the needle. All right, how can we fix that? It's like, it's supposed to go front to back, and it's going back to front through the needle eye. Alright. Come on. You know you want to run the other way. Come here. Okay, well, if I can get the serger to run, we'll continue on. If I can't, then we will call it quits here. See if that worked. Yeah, no, it is messed up. Okay. Oh, it actually jumped out of the needle eye. I don't get how it jumps out of the needle eye when it's like there is no end to pull out of the needle eye. It's so weird. My industrial sometimes does the same thing. Okay. Well, if we just need to rethread it, then we can keep going. I was just worried it was going to need to be like, I don't know what I was thinking was going to happen. I do wish I had set up my other lamp before starting this, though. I do have a table lamp specifically for the serger. It's just on the other desk. So I'm technically supposed to be using this on the other desk, but it moves around because the kids like to play with the tension dials. And that's not cool. That leads to heartache for everyone. Okay, come on. Oh, it's got a little tuft on it, so we're going to have to trim that end. Go. Then we're going to thread the needle. Thread the needle. Okay. Nope. It's like I refuse to go through that needle eye. I'm just trusting I also didn't even know where it is. There we go. Alright. And your black thread. Come on. This is why a lot of people use tweezers for the back so that they can just kind of pull it through. Okay, there we go. We are rethreaded for the needle. Pop it under here, which is under the foot. And then for whatever reason, that doesn't work quite the same with the top thread. Drop the foot and do some stitches. There we go. I think that's gonna work. Should. Hello, are we good? It's very messy. What the heck? It's messier than normal. Let's see. No, there's something happening here. Okay. Let's lift the foot. There's like extra thread from somewhere. Okay, let's trim that. Okay, so that's actually the needle thread. That's no thread. I can see. Okay. Throw the foot back down. Okay, it looks like it might be time to call it quits, guys, because sometimes messing with a sewing machine at this time of night leads to issues. mostly me wanting to throw sewing machines out the window. Okay, we'll try to rethread it one more time, and if that doesn't work, then we will head upstairs into bed. Because I technically could actually sew the hems on the white threads, but honestly, sometimes if one machine's acting up, it's contagious, and the other machine acts up too. That's what it feels like. Alright, back through this tiny, tiny needle eye. Of course, they always get smaller the darker it is, and the darker the thread. And this knife is actually in the way, so let's move the knife out of the way. That will help. And then you get a nice shot of my sleeve. So you can't see me struggling to get this through the eye of the needle. Just know that I am struggling. And we're going to get the tweezers out for this one. Oh, I have a pair of bent nose tweezers. These are kind of useless because they have teeth. Oh well, we'll try. It's apparently just that kind of night. I bet you I had them out and they were sitting with the machine, and I bet you the kiddos stole them. Let's see if I can grab it though. Why would you need tweezers that are like serrated? That's weird. Well, not serrated, but they're like little teethy tweezers. Can't even really see it, but yeah, they have like little, they sink in together like teeth. Anyway, the thread is through there, and I have just kind of coasted through before, so let's see if I can do it again. It's not through enough at this point to do that. Okay. Okay, one more time. Let's see if I can do this. Come here, my pretty. Thread through. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's through the needle. Nope, I just pulled it back. My finger stuck on the bit that I was actually trying to put through the eye. Pulled it back out, of course. Okay, come on. That's not the one I want to pull through. Okay. I don't know why threading needles are such a delicate operation, but apparently it is. Probably need to trim my thread down again. Let's try that. There. Make it pointy. And try to get it through. I also have a needle threader, but it's honestly just as hard or more work to do than to try and thread this most of the time. This might be the exception to that. Yeah, okay. We'll try with the needle threader, which is all like crunched up and gross because I've been shoving it through some too small needles recently. So the eye on this needle is technically larger than the ones on the needles that I was using before, which were needles that came with the machine, but I actually broke all of those needles, or the remainder of those needles, when I was trying to get it running again last month. So these ones have a little bit larger eye, which is good, because I haven't had any issue just hand threading this tonight. Okay, there we go. Come on, last little bit, come out. Oh, man. Not the rest of the threading, it's the needle. It's always the needle. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Okay, if this does not run, we are going to bed. If it runs, I will get the remainder of the serging done tonight. Then I'll go to bed. Okay, so we're going to run this 4. Yeah, we're just going to trim that off. There's not much that'll get trimmed off on this one. That's fine. Okay. So let's start. We'll start on the clean side so we don't have anything to interfere. The clean side being the side that I haven't done any stitching on at all. And let's go. Sometimes it's better if you run it through with actual fabric. At least that's my theory. Yeah, see? Nice and smooth. And the only thing is it feels like one of the tension threads is too loose. So we're going to pull tension up a little bit on everything. Basically what it feels like is that like it's a chain stitch that could very easily just be yanked out, basically. Because yeah, it's like creating a gather. Alright. It could also just be because it's like I didn't actually start it with a chain stitch thread. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so running it off should help. Not really. What the heck is going on? Okay, yeah, I think we've hit the point of it's time to put this on hiatus and go to bed. Because see, basically what it's done is it's created this gather, which like doesn't actually affect the surge, but it certainly doesn't look good. Okay, so maybe I actually need to have lower tension. Let's try that. Okay, so now with this other side, we're going to trim off the previous serge, or at least a good part of it. Oh, I guess putting the knife down might be helpful. Can't trim anything if the knife's not down. Okay. And I bet you a cat is sitting right in front of my computer webcam right now, isn't he? Still gathering. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, it could also be the chain piecing. We'll trim this in the middle so that like there's extra thread. Because basically what it is it just means that there's extra thread in the middle that can be pulled out. So it's still serged well. Doesn't look like it because I need to pull some threads, obviously. Like these loose threads that are actually here. But honestly, with that struggle, I should sit down and figure out the tension issues because it's probably a tension issue. And that is a tomorrow me problem. So I'm going to head out. Thank you so much to everyone who joined me. If you liked this stream, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share with friends you think would also like it. And tomorrow will obviously be a little bit more serging, and then we'll also head into cutting large box bags and getting those sewn as well. So Flynn says good night, and I hope you guys all have a fantastic night, and I'll chat with you soon. Bye.